Who's there?
Hello.
Hello, Barry. I hope all is well. I can't. The thing I can't see is. Oh yeah, I can. I can. I can see everything that you can see.
Oh,
I
all right.
think.
We're good.
Cool.
We're good. Looks like it's. It looks like it's working.
It seems to be working. Hello, everyone. It
We should
seems
probably wait a
there are
little
at
while
least
today since we're
two.
at a new place.
We're at a new place. Yeah, we're going to kind of just do the pre-show warm-up here.
Yeah. I wonder if it's not a bad idea to maybe do a social post on our channels, since maybe
I,
people are going to look for it. I didn't do
yeah,
that.
I
Did you already
already
do that? Of course you
I
did.
I did it on all of my things. Did you do it in the Discord already?
I put it in the Discord, yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I did it on all my social. Mr. Barry, hope you're well. What's cooking on this fine Wednesday night? I hope there have been some riffs today.
Riffs.
Riff steam.
Okay.
Oh, bam, 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 bam. Um, today's topic. We're gonna
Just gonna dive right
officially
in.
get into it.
All right. I'm.
No, we'll officially get into it in a little
Oh,
bit. We'll
yeah, for
give it a
sure.
minute. But for the folks who are tuned in, today's topic is about idealism, perfection, and the pivot. And if you're like, what does that title mean? It's this thing where being an artist, being a creative, being a musician, all of those things, um, we can be overly idealistic about certain things in such a way that it is a barrier. I think a certain amount of idealism can be beneficial to us, uh, to push ourselves harder. But in some ways, it can hold us back. It can be a barrier. And I think nobody on earth is new to the idea of perfection and how the concept of perfection is generally not a good one. There's no surprises there. And then the pivot that we speak of. The pivot is the change, you know, various ideas for the change for the better. If your overall goal is to make things happen, all of our, all of us seek to make things happen. And whether it be just to practice and get better or to actually write, release, write, record, release, and build a fan base, build an audience, all that kind of stuff. Doesn't matter the scale. All of these ideas that we're going to talk about today apply. Um, Mr. Barry, I am very well. I
Yeah.
I have my liquid death. I'll keep it in frame here. I have my liquid death, so I'm murdering my thirst right now.
You're gonna get that.
One day, one day.
I don't know. Look at and see if they have that here.
Nick, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good.
Good.
Had a pretty good day. It's still. I know who wants to talk about weather, but it's still absolutely frigid and freezing.
Yeah, we're getting the exact same weather here in Toronto. It comes directly from you. You
Yep.
you you wrap up your weather, put it in a FedEx box, and send it
Ship
to
it over
me.
the lake and
It is like minus 900. It's not actually. It's only minus 3 degrees Celsius, which I don't even know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it is three.
that's warm.
It's 3 degrees, 3 degrees below the freezing point, and whatchamacallit, because we're on the lake makes it feel like minus 15.
Yep.
So it's pretty wild. But what time is it here?
It's 7:05.
7:05. And what are you digging up there? Just Oh, you're doing
Oh.
your social?
No, I'm looking for liquid death.
Have you done your social posts?
Yep.
Okay, good.
I
You're
did
so
'em.
fast.
Should have
Can you
been done
do you
sooner.
know how to type officially?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember learning when I was younger. Yep.
right. I don't know how to type, eh? I type all this stuff.
I'm not fast, but
I don't
I'm
know how to
faster
type at all.
than the peckers.
I'm a packer.
Yeah.
Just call me Packer.
Dude, they have this at Whole Foods in the US of A. So,
Whole Foods, liquid death?
yeah.
Seems like a
They
Whole
have
Foods kind of
basic
item.
death, mega death, and ultra death. Oh, they're tall boy. Wait, what?
Yeah, it's just
Oh, it's cases. You're ordering cases. I
Yeah.
see.
It's amazing.
Sick. Man, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Where is everybody?
Where is it? It doesn't matter. We're gonna get into it
Yeah.
because it is 7:06.
All right.
So, today's episode, welcome to the channel. This is a new channel. Obviously, you had to click to get here. Dedicated to Bandless and so much more. We hope to do a lot of interesting, fun things with the channel surrounding these kinds of topics, getting into more technical things as well as the philosophical and such. But this is Bandless. Today's episode is about idealism, perfection, and the pivot. This is episode 5. And this is a weekly live podcast for solo music creatives. However, I think a lot of the ideas in this podcast apply to anyone with any creative pursuits whatsoever.
Agreed.
Every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Central Time, Nick Hill and myself dig into the challenges that solo creators face, the series attempts to shine light on the tools, tactics, and perspectives that might help illuminate the path forward. And today's topic, Nick Hill, do you know what is going on with today's topic?
I do.
Do you have some deets for us?
I have a little blurb of an idea. So, you kind of hit on it already. How is your idealism working out for you? Are you trapped in details that have no positive effect towards your greater goal? How fast can you pivot on a problem? Some people are trapped in their idealisms, and it seems impossible for them to pivot towards a solution. Yeah.
It's a huge problem. And before we get into the topics, have you do you feel any part of this?
Yeah. I think we've had
Does it resonate with you?
many a conversation about like getting stuck. Both of us
Yeah.
getting stuck in like this isn't good enough.
Yeah.
And I think luckily one thing that our relationship has given us, it's somebody to say like, Bunn, just fucking do that. Or Nick, just do that. Oops,
Yeah.
I said the F word, but whatever. We're not monetized yet.
We're not monetized, which is a great segue. This is a new channel, and if you don't know about the whole YouTube thing, is it takes a while to get monetized.
Yeah.
Not that this channel is all about money, but if you like what's going on with Bandless and you want to help out, we have included a link in the description of the show, and I will pop it into the chat as well. If you want to, if anybody wants to kick anything in on the show at all, it will go into a sort of like a penny jar, so to speak, and will be used to pay for the cost of the show. So the software that we use to put all of the images together, like so that Nick and I are on the screen together, we have to pay for that and all that kind of stuff. Not a problem.
Yep.
Hap-
Don't feel
hap- happy to-
obligated.
Yeah.
Don't feel
happy to pay for
obligated. But yeah, anything that until the channel gets up and running, anything you guys want to chip in, we'll just go right back to the channel. And Bunn and I have some big plans for this channel now that it has its own space. It's kind of opened the door for, and this is a little bit off topic, but opened the door for like different content ideas and things we can dig into that might not fit in with the baritone obsessed world and might not fit in with the music and production stuff that I do on my channel. So this is sort of going to be a nice catch-all for some of the stuff that, you know, Bunn and I would love to make videos on and talk about, but, you know,
Not right for our own
yeah,
channels.
not right. So
Yeah.
this is
And we can
cool.
have guests here. We can have industry guests here. We can have other YouTubers, other musicians, all that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Because this topic, you know, how do people do it? What do people go through? What keeps them down? What gets them ahead? These are questions that I think never go away, no matter how far along you get with any of it. So,
Yep.
yeah, we're going to be able to address all of that.
Yeah, we're pretty excited. And I mean, if you think about it, Bunn, you know, perfection and idealism and pivoting, this show being on its own channel is
A
sort of
huge pivot. Yeah.
right in line with this topic, because you and I, we wanted things a certain way. We want to have certain control over how the show looks and runs, and, you know, how do we put the money, you know, not that it's all about the money, but, you know, the income the stream makes back into Bandless, so it's its own thing. And we finally kind of went back and forth about maybe we should just start a channel for Bandless and then build it so that it's its own thing.
And it's exciting.
And, yeah, we were both like not sure if that was the decision to do,
Yeah.
but I think we both kind of like slowly nudged each other off, and we just like boom in the last couple days did it.
Yeah. It hurts. It doesn't hurt, but like it feels like pain when you start to think about starting something from scratch, from zero,
yeah.
from a hypothetical zero. You're never starting from zero.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
Mike's
it's-
here. Hello, Mike.
Mike's here, Barry's here, Dave's here. Yeah,
Cool.
we're getting some people.
Yeah, the
trickling
pivot,
in, yeah.
starting from zero is never a bad thing. Anyhow, we're going to
Yeah.
get into the first thing. I'm going to pose a little bit here, Nick.
Yep.
We're going to get into the first part of the topic. And this first thing has to do with fixations, the fixating on a particular part of your process, of your system, of your details, and that fixation not necessarily being in line with what your greater goal is.
Yeah.
So I guess the way I'm going to pose it is, do you know what matters to your end goal? Like, are you clear on what matters to your end goal? And are you aware of any fixations or idealisms or obsessions that you are kind of in your own way?
That detract from.
Yeah, where you're like, I'm spending all of this attention and time and stress and maybe anxiety on these details or this thing or whatever. And it actually has nothing to do with like me succeeding, the quality of my work, getting something done, etc. Is there any kind of fixations you have like that, or examples in line with that?
I think in regards to like my channel, I would say it's the success of X video, or a lack of an idea ahead. Like, I think I've recently been a little bit worried about ideas before I even put them into motion, whether or not they might do well without having any real idea. So like I haven't struggled with that too much, but it's odd that I have been in the last maybe month or so. And when it boils down to it, I'll end up making a video on a topic that I think is helpful and not thinking it's going to do well. And when I say this, it really doesn't matter how it does to me, like in the long run.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing this channel for two things: to be helpful to as many people as possible and to share my music. That's basically what it boils down to. It's a little bit broad. I know that's not a super like focused like end game, but
I think it's pretty focused.
Yeah, I figure if a video or a topic can at least point in to shine a light on one of those two things, then I'm gonna be fine.
Do you feel like you're, in the end, do you feel like you're succeeding on those 2 points?
So far, yes, I do.
Being helpful and getting your music out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. I'd say in the last year for sure. Yeah. I definitely feel like I'm headed in the right direction. And I had a thought and it's completely gone. That's excellent when that happens. And you have like a thought right there and then it just decides to disintegrate.
Go woo.
Yep. Bye.
In terms of this thing of a fixation, so an example that I have for myself where it was pretty bad was my original Bunn website when I first launched the whole Bunn thing. I wanted to use a Squarespace or a Wix or whatever.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't find something that was working the way that I wanted it to work. And what I wanted was everything to be pixel perfect and designed the way that I wanted it designed and it to work the way that I wanted it to work. And I was so caught up in this idea of the layout of the website being so specific that I completely lost sight of what the point of the website was.
Yeah.
And what the function of the website needed to serve. Like completely lost track of that. It was crazy. And for like probably 3 years or 4 years, it was like that. 3 years at least. And eventually, you know, I found Bandzoogle. I already knew about Bandzoogle, but Bandzoogle had matured and offered other options. They still did not offer the layout options that I was looking for. But I realized that I was completely in my way with that detail. That detail was inconsequential. Right. What Bandzoogle did offer for me, and this is not an ad for Bandzoogle, it's just like a great example.
Right.
It offered a musician-specific set of tools and features that allowed me to kind of like up my overall music game. And those things were way, way more important than me hand coding every single update, every single thing. And I didn't have a lot of the tools built in or features built into my website that I designed myself and updated myself that were kind of mission critical to being a musician, a solo musician on the web. Like, how are you going to succeed if you can't collect or make sales and collect payments or anything?
Yeah, it's funny. You know, I saw this example in the doc, and I don't know why I didn't. I just kind of thought of this while you're kind of talking. When we first became buddies, like I didn't have a website at all.
Right.
And I was kind of doing the same thing. Like, I don't know how to make a web page. I don't know, like, is Squarespace the right thing? And I was doing the same thing. I was going between Squarespace and whatever that other modular offering is. It's like, and instead of having a landing page, I was just had nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So
I remember that day.
Yeah.
Like we were talking and then you just did it, I think, while we were talking.
Yeah. It's exactly what happened. You're like, listen, man, I coded web pages, but I ended up landing on Bandzoogle, and it's like, just have something. You need to have something, a landing page. And if it weren't for that, I mean, a lot of people, I get visits to that thing every single day. So, you know, something is better than nothing. And, you know, while you have that something up, you can scramble to, you know, make it better. But to be in this pursuit of like, well, I want to put a web page out, but it needs to be perfect. You know, it needs to be like the best. Like, no, like, yes, but also no. Like, you're losing out on opportunity.
Make sure that people can connect with you. If your whole goal is to connect with people.
Well, of course, that is a caveat. Yeah.
You know, you make sure that people can connect with you, and also make sure that people who are interested in what you're doing can support you in some way.
Yeah.
Whether it be signing up to your email list or making a purchase or, just sending you an email to say hello. It's like, I appreciate the music or whatever. Like, it doesn't have to be anything specific. It can be whatever you want it to be, but it's important that you have something, I
Right.
think, have something in motion that works for you and isn't working against you. And that it's in
Absolutely.
line with your end goal. Another great example of this topic for me is I used to work for a couple of merchandising companies. I owned my own at one point where we made merchandise for the music business, musicians, managers, labels, all that kind of stuff, all kinds of different stuff. It was essentially a design and print business, all of the ones that I worked for. And I remember there was this one client who they were doing this campaign, and I think it centered on actually Valentine's Day, which is coming up, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But everything needed to be pink. Everything was pink. And it was really, really important to them that the pink was this specific Pantone pink.
Mm-hmm.
And we just couldn't match the pink exactly.
Right.
It was literally like about somewhere between 3 and 5% off of the pink. And it had to do with the kind of paper that they wanted to print on.
Naturally, yeah.
The paper itself was pushing the hue of the pink.
Mm-hmm.
And we're like, well, we could change it to this paper and we'll get the perfect result. And they're like, no, it has to be this paper. I'm like, well, then the pink is going to be off. They're like, no, the pink has to be perfect. And and I actually got to speak with sort of the head of that project. The interesting thing was nobody in this project was invested in the actual products they were making. It was just everyone was in this frame of mind, like it had to be what it is. And I'm just like, what difference does it make in the end? They're like, well, it's specified to be this Pantone pink, so we need to make it that. I'm like, huh? And it was really interesting because none of that had any positive impact or any impact at all on whether or not they would sell
Yeah.
anything at all, or
Yeah.
any part of it would succeed.
Huh.
And it looked like a nice pink. It was a totally nice pink. Even they would say, they're like, yeah, it's a really nice pink. It's just not the Pantone. We need to try.
Yeah.
Spent 2 weeks
Oh,
trying
man.
to get it all to work, and then they settled on something else. And they wasted a ton of time and a ton of money because we billed them for it. I think it was like $8,000 or something like that to figure out. It was stupid.
Yeah, it's like you need reality checks along the way, because I think we've talked about this in regards to music too. It's like, well, like there's this one part that I'm just not happy with. It's like, hey, no one's going to notice it but you. Like,
Yeah.
and I know there is something to be said about like presenting your art in just the right way that you want it, but are you going to let like the right reverb sound, or like there's this the drum sound, are you going to prevent that? Are you going to allow that to prevent anybody from hearing it?
Does
Like,
it make any difference
Does
at
it
all?
exactly?
It,
Does
it
this
actually
really
doesn't.
matter in the context of the song? Like you made up a good point, and I think Steven and I were talking from Gear Stuff and Things about like if the song, we've talked about this before.
Oh,
If
yeah,
the
I know what you're
song
going to
is
say.
good and the composition is right and the vibe is there, like it doesn't matter, man. Like
It's not 90%.
you and I talk about punk. We use punk as like a perfect example.
Absolutely.
Punk is the attitude, the vibe, the energy. How many people are going to turn to a Ramones album and be like, I want that kick? You
Yeah.
know? Nobody.
But how many people rock to those jams?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Way more than enough.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a good example of being in your own way for no good reason. Like
we all do it too,
Yeah,
We all,
and-
and in this arena, the bandless world where it's not just music. Like,
Yeah.
I get caught up on You know, where are we? Like, are we stuck on? Are we on the fixation part? I don't want to tell
Yeah,
my
yeah, yeah.
story if
We're
it's
still
out of.
on fixation. We're still
Yeah.
on
So
fixation.
like, t-shirts and merch for me was like something that, you know, you were very adamant and like, you know, your fans are asking for this, Nick. Like, you should just put stuff out. You know, you should have some stuff because people want to support you. It's like with music on Bandcamp. Man, where would I be without you? You got me to put my music on Bandcamp because you're like, people want to support you, and there's a whole community of people on Bandcamp. And then you were like, people want to support you, and they don't care what it is. They want to buy something Nick Hill related.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, I don't have a saying or a catchphrase, or I don't like, you know, I kept comparing it to you where you have your community, your baritone obsessed community, your go low, your all the stuff that you've kind of built. I'm like, I don't have that.
Yeah, I'm more of a jackass, and I say a lot of dumb shit.
Right. But I thought that I needed something before I did anything related to that. And then finally, I'm just like, of enough of us going back and forth, I was like, all right, I'm just going to come up with something. And I came up with my Riffs mug
Yeah,
or
it's
my
awesome.
little Riffs logo, and people dig it, you know?
Yeah. I think the Riffs mug is still in my cart. I'm gonna grab one because it would be
Um,
sick if we did this show and we both had Riffs mugs. Let's be real.
Yeah, well, I need to get do you have anything that goes on a mug in your store?
I think I have one mug. Maybe not.
I need a Bunn
I-
mug.
I have no idea. Like I don't. I really
Where's
don't.
your little plush bunny that you have on your amps? Like,
Yeah.
you need to put that on a mug.
Yeah, the bun.
Yeah, dude,
Bunny.
we need that on a mug. So, yeah, I was thinking I need the perfect T-shirt idea, or I'm not going to do anything. And you know, Bandcamp, like, just I was getting in my own way. Do I need a Bandcamp? Why do I need a Bandcamp? People aren't going to want to. Like, no, man. Like,
Yeah, overthinking it, fixating on the I am I doing the right thing? I think that's what's going on there. Is this the right thing? Am I going to pee off my audience or something like that? And a lot of times, I think the key is to just try it.
yeah. Shout out to everybody who found the show. Thank you guys for your diligence.
Yeah, amazing.
Yeah. Appreciate the sleuthing.
We're going to cap this one off with one last little bit here. The fixation. What is something that you're fixating on in the chain of events, in the chain of things, in the chain of processes? It can show itself in many different ways. I've done this. Nick has done this. Everybody in this feed has done this stuff. But a lot of times we have to kind of talk about them in order to realize that that's what we're doing. And we're
Yeah.
like, holy man, I am totally like down the rabbit hole on this one thing, and it's keeping me from doing anything that I actually want to do, which is interesting. And the last one is like things themselves. For me,
Oh, sure.
I remember very clearly getting really caught up in thinking I needed like a boutique high gain amp. I had a high gain amp. I had a Mesa Boogie Mark III.
Yeah.
Perfectly capable amp. And the boutique high gain amps were coming in, and for some reason my brain just went there. I'm like, I need one of those amps, our Diesel Herbert or a Bogner Uberschall or
Yep.
something like this. I'd never even played one at that point. I just saw pictures of them, and I was like, that's what I need, and I need that one of those amps to do this thing that I'm doing,
I mean,
that I want to do. Do you feel that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that I'm sure everybody in the chat, everyone on Discord, in the Discord community, both of us, we've both been at that place where it's like, yeah, I need to do this, but I don't have this guitar or this tone, or
But you do have something that is perfectly capable of creating with.
right,
In your hands. You know how
Yeah.
long I went before I did anything, even remotely in line with that goal that I had at that time?
Years.
3 years.
Yeah.
3 years I did nothing. Not
Yep.
one thing, not one riff.
Yep. Same.
Yeah.
Same. I mean, like I said, when we met, you kind of really set my momentum in motion. Like I hadn't released any music yet because I was like, I don't know if it sounds good enough.
Who cares?
Like
Just get it out there.
just start. Just start the process.
Yeah.
I mean, and not completely related, but you know, I think it goes along the lines with like expecting perfection out of the gate, like with the Discord, because we didn't know how to control it. We didn't know it, we were ignorant on it, and we're like, well, and you even probably came around a little bit sooner, and we're like, Nick, you don't need to. We don't need to control it. You know,
No,
it's like
the people. It's about the people.
Everyone was asking, and we were like, we don't know anything about it. How are we going to control it? How is it going to look? What's it going to like? Who are we going to like? This, that, and the other thing. We were both going back and forth about worrying about all these things, and it's like, well, now that we have it, both of us have had a conversation together about how, like, wow, this is like way more exciting than I could have imagined it. You know, we both had a mutual like revelation that it's a pretty stoked thing to have, and
Yeah.
that we were just kind of like kicking the idea around, mainly because it was a lack of time, but it was also like we were probably like not in a hurry to do it because we didn't know anything about it, or
Yeah.
we weren't, we didn't know if we were going to be able to have the perfect Discord server. It's like,
Yeah, it doesn't need to be perfect.
no,
Just
it doesn't.
launch it and see what happens.
Yeah.
And if it sucks, take it down.
Yeah.
Easy. And when I say if it sucks, I mean like if you're not putting anything into it, or if you launch it and it's just not in line with what you want to do. There's a million reasons why it could not be working out. I'm not saying like from a complaining point of view.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, that kind of caps off the sort of fixation part of things. We tend to fixate on things that are not necessarily in line with our greater goal. I think, and I've done it so many times. Nick Hill, you've done it so many times. I can see in the chat here, people have done it millions of times. Anthony, he has literally repurchased prior amps under the same premise. Sometimes the hunt provides the distraction rather than getting productive. And that's a great way to put it, to poise it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It can be gear, it can be anything. Just something to kind of obsess on, fixate on, that has nothing to do with your total end goal. And getting good with that. I don't know what I'm doing. Getting good with that. What is it that I'm trying to do overall? What is my overall? And are the things that I'm pouring the maximum amount of energy into, are they in line with what I'm trying to do?
Right. It with a little bit of experience comes that mentality. You don't have it right away because you do get stuck in the gear acquisition syndrome thing, thinking that you need this, that, or the other thing to do A. And as you get a little bit older, or somebody is just like, dude, just do it. Like you were kind of with me in the EP, like you're like, oh yeah, all I need to do is just do it. It's fine.
Yeah. And Jack shares an interesting point, similar, in line with that. He's currently found himself putting off making a new video, waiting for the new tools to arrive. But the videos that he was making, he was already making videos, and I'm sure they're good videos. And one thing about making things is every time you make another thing, it seems like there is usually an exponential kind of growth in your ability. even with your old things. For the
Yeah.
longest time, I thought, cameras are dear to my heart, camera stuff, and as well yourself,
Same.
Nick Hill.
Yeah. Yeah.
And for the longest time, I thought that I needed really, a cinema camera or whatever. And
Yeah,
I
we still
use,
go back and forth on this, don't we?
oh yeah,
All the
And-
time.
yeah. And I use, this is my, I don't know how well anyone's going to
Yeah,
be
you
able
can
to see
see it.
this. Yeah.
It's your main.
It's all
camera
rigged
A.
out, but
Yep.
the camera itself is $150. I'm not joking.
Right.
And it's perfectly acceptable. Could it be better? It could probably be better. Does it need to be better? At this point, no. I can make the videos that I make, and the videos do what they need to do. And I have yet to hit my total creative potential.
Yeah.
With it. So Jack, I feel
Yeah,
what
Jack,
you're
we
talking.
we both have been there. And that's why, like, this kind of topic has come up about, making the best of what you have. And I've really been a kind of a proponent of, people camera-wise, real quick, because this is a good comment. People ask us about the live stream and how it looks, and it's like we're using what is this, an $80
Yeah.
webcam?
Mine was, I think, $78.
Yeah. So with a little bit of creativity and some
Lights.
thought and some lights,
Yeah.
you can
Get a decent
stuff
look.
that looks good.
Yeah.
Get the point across, get to that point, work your way up. Don't expect, like, I've shot music videos on my camera that I shoot all my YouTube stuff on. And when I tell most people what camera it is that I use, they're like, really? I'm like, yeah, because now it's not a cheap camera, but it's kind of entry level as far as,
Yeah, but it's
you
it's not a $20,000 cinema
exactly.
camera.
It's not a cinema camera. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not what, the pros are shooting on, but
Yeah.
you can still do it
You can do
with-
pro stuff with it.
with some creativity.
Yeah.
Absolutely. This is a good comment.
Yeah. What you call development of a void? Am I saying it right? I can't see it very well.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you for the awesome, juicy little bit here. He talks about Jordan Peterson talking about the necessity for aim. For those of you who don't know who Jordan Peterson is, he's a clinical psychologist, and he talks a lot of
Heady
thinking,
stuff.
and ideas. But yeah, about the necessity for aim. The most successful people also fall the most. And that's interesting because the most successful people, they have two things that going on. A, they have aim. Generally, so this is just an observation. This is not me, I know what's going on. I don't. I need to be very clear about this. This is just an observation. But it seems like the most successful people have these two things. They have aim. They have an end goal very much in mind. And they have the ability to pivot all the time. So this is what he's talking about with
Yeah.
successful people falling the most. Things don't work out. Things don't work out more than they work out if you're going for it.
It's like the skateboarding analogy.
The skateboarding analogy is so sick.
Yeah.
Hit us with it one more time, because it's
mean,
perfect.
It is. It's when you're skateboarding, those of you guys who have skated or know enough about skating, like you are working on a trick and failing and sucking and falling more than you land it. It takes all this failure to get that one or two times where you land it, and then the muscle memory starts to kick in. But you're failing at skating for the most part more than you're succeeding,
Yeah.
And if you think about it, you have a directive. It's to land this particular trick with the right movements, and you're going to do it over and over and over and over and over, and you're going to primo, and you're going to fall, and you're going to shin yourself, and you're going to get close, or you're going to slip out, but then you're going to land it, but it's taking all of that failure to get to that success. And I think that's that point about Jordan Peterson saying that the most successful people also fail the most. Like, yeah, you have to, like we say, put in the reps to get to that point. where you can achieve success, because if you don't even bother trying, you're definitely not going to get there.
Definitely
Now,
not.
certain things, there are certain things that certain people are going to just get sooner, like my son is a way better
Yeah.
skateboarder than I was.
Yeah, some
ever.
people are just built better
Yeah.
for certain things, and that's just the way it is.
But it's not to say that Logan didn't suck at this trick or that trick or this trick,
Yeah.
because I watched him, and that was my favorite thing about watching him learn to skate, was like, I'm probably putting too much depth into it, but him having to work at a skateboarding trick is it's going to pay off later in life.
Yeah, totally.
I firmly believe it.
100%.
Yeah.
Nick Hill, I have to run to the room beside this one for a second.
Yeah.
This one by Dylan Nunez. Can you attack this?
Yeah.
Because it is two things. It is a fixation that is a barrier, a personal barrier, but it is also sort of a distraction. I think there's a little bit of column A, column B going on there, and it's just an interesting one. I know you've been caught up in it. I've been caught up in it.
Yep. Yeah. So Dylan says, I've been uninspired for years, but I buy shit more than ever. Gear acquisition is a very addictive substitute for doing anything. And Dylan, you and I have talked at length about your lack of inspiration, but I've been there too. And I've used, like Bunn and I were talking, I've used the idea that, like, well, if I just had this pedal, I did that for a long time with the Horizon devices precision drive. I'm like, if I just had that pedal, like, I would have a better tone, and then I'd feel a little more confident about my playing. It's like, and I'm telling you guys, I literally thought that not that long ago, a year. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. I'm just, it's a distraction. And Dylan, maybe in your case, like, acquiring gear, is allowing you to kind of hold on to that thing that, you haven't been inspired to do for so long. Oh. So there is a little bit of a different side of it for this situation. But I mean, I know I've been caught up. I was just telling everybody about how not that long ago, maybe a year ago, I'm like, well, if I had this precision drive pedal, then it would just make my tone that much better. It would tighten everything up, and then my productions would be better, And I remember thinking that, like, no, that's not the case.
No, it sounded good already.
Yeah.
It just sounds different now.
Yeah.
And we're going to cap this part off with Steven's comment here, because I think it's a great example. Recently, so he says, I've been making dumb videos, new videos, sans gear, because I get mad at myself for not creating, which I think is an amazing exercise, to kind of push through and also push into maybe an area that you might be uncomfortable with, and maybe explore from a different point of view. I really like these videos that he speaks of. If you're new to Gear Stuff and Things, he has a YouTube channel. It's called Gear Stuff and Things. A lot of baritone guitar content, but recently a lot more content about this sort of
conversational type stuff.
Headier stuff, like we're talking about here. Like what it means to be a creative, to be an artist, all that stuff. I got to murder my bladder a little bit more with this liquid death.
Yeah. So Steven from Gear Stuff and Things, like, I've been doing these more intimate kind of behind, like, candid videos. I haven't done. I'm due one, but I started doing those. The behind the mix stuff.
Yeah.
Where I get pretty deep into some of my personal stuff. I started doing that because, like Steven, I was in the same kind of spot. I was like, I don't know. I was not writing anything at the time. And again, this was not that long ago. This was like maybe a month ago. So this is like a regular ebb and flow thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, well, what's bugging me? I'm going to make a video on that. And that's what I did. And I think that's the exercise to continue to do. That's like you said earlier. It's like, there is something to be said. Like Jack said, I'm not going to do a video because my new stuff's coming. Well, like if you do this video that you're putting off, you might learn something for the next one. Like, oh, I did this and I had a win here.
Yeah.
So they could apply to the next one. There's like, it's better to do something than to like find a reason to not do it. It's easier said than done, of course.
Of course. But the exercise is always worth it. So with all that said, we're going to move into the next part of the topic. This one, I think I think everybody is going to be able to relate to.
Oh, yeah.
And it is, how good is good enough?
Mm-hmm.
It's this whole perfection idea. We're going to address it not necessarily as the tried and true sort of perspective of perfection, but more of the kind of inner workings of it.
Yeah.
You get into these loops of you can't stop mixing or mastering, you can't settle on a logo, you can't decide on a website provider or a digital distributor. Maybe you can't even start something because it's not, your idea isn't good enough. You haven't even started at all. You're just like, my idea is not good enough.
Yeah.
Like, how good is good enough? Really, I think in the end, none of it really matters at all. I think what we just kind of came out of, that sort of tail end of that last topic, is getting that thing into motion. It doesn't need to be perfect. It doesn't need to be so good. And my favorite sort of, I guess, saying, analogy, I don't know what it would be, but we'll call it a saying.
Yeah.
Is an okay idea in motion is always better than the greatest idea ever that's stuck in your head.
Yeah.
Because something is happening and you can build on an okay idea. If it's the greatest idea ever with no execution, nothing's happening. Who cares if it's great?
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
I mean, if you think about it, like if we dig that apart, if it's such a great idea, you'd be acting on it.
Well, a lot of times we think it's a great idea, but a lot of times
But it's
the
missing
reason
this piece.
Well, it's missing a piece. Yeah. It's like, I'm not doing that great idea because I'm missing this and I need to achieve this and that and that and that first. So you end up back at the beginning of this saying, okay, well, I'm going to start with an okay idea and get it into motion so I can build towards that greatest idea ever. But
Right.
a lot of times that thing gets looped around. And, the end of last year, I did a little experiment where I'm like, I want to produce and release a track of music every single month. And I'm trying to get back on that right now.
Yeah.
I'm just sealing up some final things in terms of my life to permit the time to do it, which is transitioning out of my job, but I'm training people to do what my job was. Because I don't want to leave them high and dry.
Right.
Anyhow, but I've already started on this, is, doing this monthly music thing. And my experiment at the end of last year was that, okay, I'm going to just do it. And even if the track sucks, I'm going to release it. I'm going to commit. I'm going to fully commit to this thing. Every month, I'm going to release a piece of music. And lo and behold, the third piece of music, I got 3 of them out. I actually got 4 of them out, but 3 that were in a series. The third one I got out was 3 times better than the first one. And the first one, in my opinion, sucks. I think it's a terrible track. Is it the worst track in the world? No, it's fine.
Right.
But it doesn't get me jazzed.
But as far as your initial threshold that was keeping you from just putting music out, like I can understand, like,
was this pressure to like release bangers,
yeah,
because it's not that I'm known for releasing bangers, but like that's not what I'm saying.
No, we've had this back and forth. It's like I there's a riff. I don't think it was in the third one, but there's a riff in one of them where I'm like, dude, this is like my favorite riff, and you're like,
Oh,
like,
the clutch
yeah.
riff.
But I would have like never, you know what I mean? Like I was like,
Yeah, that was in
yes.
the first one.
Okay, perfect example. So
Yeah,
like, I love that first one, and Bunn's like, eh,
yeah.
but
I would like to set fire to that first one. Yeah,
but that
it's
goes,
fine, but
it goes on. It proves the point that you and I try to make. It's like,
yeah.
it's subjective and not always about.
Well, it also ties into other things that we've talked about where you don't get to choose as the creator. You don't get to choose who likes it or why they
Right.
like it.
Right.
You don't get to choose your audience.
Yeah.
Your audience chooses you, and that's very important to get good with.
Yep.
I think that allows you to make moves like this. Like for me, the experiment was worth way more. And the continuing of this experiment, like I will release more crappy tracks.
Yeah.
It's according to me, what I am not as excited about. I will release more. It's fine.
Very much in line with that idea was when you started the BO riffs.
Yeah.
And I was like not doing them at first because I was thinking kind of the same thing. Like, well, if it's got to be like the best, sickest riff. And at some point, I'm like, you were doing them and Steven was doing it. And I'm like, I just want to do it then. I just want to do a riff.
Get it out. Yeah.
Just do a riff.
And they get better.
So I did a bunch, and now they've ended up becoming songs. So,
yeah.
Again, the perfection thing, the getting in our own way. It's,
Yeah. How good is good enough?
Yeah.
How good is good enough?
And these riffs that were BO riffs, and now they're going to be Wells riffs, and they're in songs. It's like, I know they're not the best stuff I've ever written, but I like what they've ended up becoming, and that would have never happened had I not just gotten out of my way.
Yeah.
And that's the thing to try and think about. It's very hard to do that. It's very hard to kind of like, it's like, oh, you're third person, You need to like look in the third person, like if you're controlling yourself, like in The Sims, you know.
And I think a lot of people tend to look at things that way. I'm probably guilty. I can think of various scenarios where I would be guilty of that, where there's something about this world and this society, Western culture, where there's a lot of pressure on people to kind of like get the winning grade, to get straight A's and get the good job and do things right the first time and kind of knock it out of the park in a straight line.
Yeah.
We know, you make it to adulthood, significantly into adulthood, and you find out pretty quick, like that's a load of BS.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter. There's some programming there, and a lot of people wrestle with it to try and make sense of it. And when they start going into things that are creative, where there is no straight line, where there is no prototype to follow, like the arts, like there's nothing to say that you're going to hit. There's nothing. You could make the best, most technically produced thing in the world, and maybe nobody vibes with it. It's not up to you, right? It's not a straight line. So there's a lot of that going on, pre-programming.
Yeah, we have a lot of instances of some of this stuff, like a lack of inspiration led to me coming up with a helix tone. So here's the truth about it, and you guys will get this insight. now with the channel, when I'm not feeling inspired to write, or if I don't feel like I have a video idea that's going to be helpful to people, then I'll do a helix tone video because I need some sort of inspiration, you know?
Yeah.
So a lack of inspiration led to me trying to come up with a Devin Townsend tone, which then led to me writing some riffs, which then led to me writing this track Humanity that I personally think is one of my best tracks that I've ever written. But it came out of, you know, this sucky moment, you know?
Yeah.
Or it's like Steven made a comment about him, like he says all his BL riffs are his worst ideas in his opinion. But it's like, you have to play those like, oh, that doesn't work. You have to play those crappy riffs. You're not going to pick up a guitar and just go, sick riff. I mean,
Yeah.
if you can do that, then you're probably not following this channel and you're doing something else. But
Yeah.
like,
It does happen from time to time.
sure. It does. But
The more you show up,
if you really think about it, Bunn, it doesn't, because
Generally,
you'll come sit down today and maybe be like, oh, dude, this song just came together. These riffs just came together. But like, days before, what was happening a few days before that? You could have just been writing crappy shit, or nothing good was coming out, you know? So
Dude,
it's like all this
yesterday I
all a
tried.
connection.
Yeah, yesterday I tried probably, I don't know, 40 different ideas. Not joking.
No, I was doing the same thing. I think we were both writing at the same time yesterday.
Yeah, they were all bad. Terrible.
Yeah.
They're all trash. I just deleted all of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I don't know. One thing I do know is working through it is when you start to get to a saucy place. You know, the more you do it, the more that it's like you get into the rhythm, the creative rhythm of it. So, at
Yeah.
least for me, everybody's got a little bit of a different workflow. So, but yeah, you know, thinking about that rhythm type of thing, and thinking about a band type of scenario, a place where you see this sort of thing is one thing is not like the result of one way is not the result in another medium or whatever. Like the way you go about it isn't always guaranteed, and sometimes the medium is specific. So using a band as an example, a live band, and you practice in a room for months and months and months, and you get really good at playing your tunes in that room, in that studio, and then you take it out on the road. It's a lot of times that first live show or the first batch of live shows, especially if you've never done it with that project before, are a little bit rocky. A lot of people are perplexed, or a lot of people are like, yo, I can't hear myself. I need more monitors.
Yeah.
Yo, sound man.
And
the truth is you need practice playing live.
yeah, this is a great example of this, you know.
But the more you play live, the best way to prepare for playing live is to play live a lot, and you get really good at it. But there's this thing that you're trying to do in the studio rehearsals. You're trying to be good enough. You're trying to control how good it's going to be. And the only way you're going to get really good at the true scenario is to just throw yourself into the real scenario and go on tour for 2 months, 3 months. At the end of that tour, you will be very good.
Yep.
Very tight band. And you won't care about monitors that much. You're like, I've played through so many crappy sounding rooms that I just figured it out.
That's the truth. Like,
Yeah.
you'll find ways of adapting to it.
Yeah.
You know, if you work on these things in a vacuum, you know, it doesn't translate to the real world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how good is good enough? It's good when you've done enough.
Yeah. It's good when you've done enough. Yeah, that's something.
Did I
man.
just coin something there?
Yeah,
I
you
don't
coined
know.
something.
Maybe I did.
It's good when you've done enough. Yeah. There it is.
But I don't know if that is a good example, but it is an example nonetheless of this, like attempting to control something and the results only really coming once you've really committed to the final thing, really like actually put yourself out there. And I think my last scenario for this is I used to have a studio, a full-blown studio where I would record bands. I've had 2 of those.
Right.
And, you know, all the outboard gear and all that tasty stuff. And my whole reasoning for getting into that, to ever wanting my own studio, was to make my own music. And what's interesting is I didn't really get into doing that until I didn't have a studio, until I had an office.
Yeah. Funny how that works.
I got caught up with working on everybody else's bands, being in bands. And then that whole 10-year period, it's about 10 years-ish, I recorded 1 song totally myself. And it wasn't very good. And I was like, oh, I don't get it.
Do you think it was because you were working in it, like there was this level of like, I don't want to go home and do this thing too? Or was it maybe, I'm just trying to think how maybe my mind would work. Was it maybe exposure to all these amazing musicians? I know they weren't all amazing, but you know,
A lot of distraction.
Yeah.
Just a lot of distraction. I didn't need, if my goal was to make my own music, I didn't need to record any other bands. I didn't need to be in any other bands. I needed to just like live in my studio and record, like write and record.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about myself at that period is I didn't actually have a desire to play live that much. And the internet was happening. MySpace was happening. Bandcamp was happening.
Right.
All that kind of stuff. All the stuff was ripe to like get involved. And I just kept putting it off because it seemed like everything was so exciting. Playing in other bands, recording other bands, all that stuff.
Right.
So it was not getting right with my end goal. But also, I think a big part of it was when I actually started working on my own tunes, that very one track, the first track that I output that way, which was kind of early on in my second studio, it wasn't very good. And I think it was like, how good is good enough type of scenarios, like Paradox, where it's like, oh, I just expected, I own a studio and I'm pretty decent at recording other bands and I play in all these killer bands that are popular.
Yeah.
I should be able to record like a killer track. And it wasn't, because I only did one.
Yeah.
And it wasn't my priority.
I produce hip hop on in electronic stuff, like on the side, that I really don't release to anybody.
Right.
Because I think it needs to be at this certain level. And some of my stuff has ended up with people using it and working on it and on albums and stuff, but there's this level of it's twofold, where I know I've written good stuff and I'm just have this unreasonable expectation for it. And then there's a level of like, I know what to do principally, like in principle for this type of production, but I can't get to that point. So it's
right.
It's like this whole guitar thing again, like with a different genre of music, which is, it's interesting to be at different levels with
kind of in parallel.
Yeah, very much so. And I've jumped back into it recently a lot, like basically just lack of sleep now. Because my son has gotten into it, and so I've kind of like got the itch again. So he'll be in his room working on stuff. I'll be out in the living room upstairs working on that other setup, and it's like I'm doing it so that I can help give him guidance when he has a question, and like also like refreshing my mind on it. And
amazing.
Yeah, and I think like, wow, I was just thinking this yesterday, like how confident I am capable of being when it comes to my guitar work and my guitar music, and then how like crappy or amateur I feel when it comes to these other genres. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty rad opportunity to be afforded the perspective, like I say, in
Yeah.
parallel like that, like
Yeah.
knowing this is how I feel, my confidence level in this set of variables, and then same thing going on, just a different set of variables, and I feel completely different, um, and a very different confidence level. Very cool. Um,
Yeah.
that's all I have for that section, Nick Hill. I wonder, do you want to get into some comments? There's a lot of good stuff
Yeah, there's a
happening
lot of
here.
let's dive in. You got
Um,
a few to pick from cuz there's
yeah,
there's a lot of good stuff.
there is a lot of good stuff. Uh, and how do I pick?
I know. You guys have a lot of good
Where are we at? Uh, we're gonna apoplexia. He's like, Nick, that is totally my reality. I just always feel like my stuff should be better, and I end up never releasing anything because I'm not finishing anything. And yeah,
Yeah, I have an electronic song that I really think is good, but there's something that I'm not confident about, and I just don't do anything with it.
yeah,
It's stupid.
and
Like we go through these talks, and like I still go through the things that
you,
I'm trying to tell you guys you don't need to worry about.
yeah,
So it's an interesting thing, if that's what you want to call it.
yeah. Um, to make tone comparing it. Okay, you guys are having conversations amongst yourselves, very good ones. Uh,
Oh, and for the record, you guys in the chat, when I was in the hardcore band, I was the loud bass player.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it's funny that
Can you
they were
turn
talking
down?
about that. Like I was the loud bass player. I played so loud, and I had that chimey, high-end, gnarly bass sound in the
Yeah,
hardcore band, so you could hear me everywhere in any place we played.
yeah.
Oh
And
man.
apoplexia also asks, what is it that you're not confident about, Nick, in your
Yeah, bro,
electronic music?
it's kind of like what you said. Like I expect it to be, I don't know, Boards of Canada, like right
Right,
out of the box.
right.
Not realistic.
Boards of Canada is so good,
Oh my God, man.
dude.
And
Amazing
there's
reference
a
right there.
sound, there's a sound, and I've shared this band with you. We are all astronauts.
Yeah,
That I absolutely fell in love with their sound and their composition. Well, I think it's just one guy, but it's like it's stuff that I wish I could write, and this is kind of like me trying to do that. But it's like it pales in comparison. But it's weird. I know it's good because I think it's catchy, but it's not Boards of Canada or it's not We Are All Astronauts. So I'm
right.
like, what am I gonna do with it
There,
then?
there, there is a pedigree that you are shooting for.
Yeah, and it's unrealistic too.
Right.
For like my first electronic track, it needs to be up here.
Yeah.
Well, so I'm right in the comments with you guys.
Yeah. Gear Stuff and Things has a great one here.
Yep.
If the tour is 10 days, the 8th and 10th shows are the good ones. If the tour is 30 to or 25 to 30 days, the last few days will be the good ones. And I've experienced this. I can definitely say like longer tours, maybe the last half of the tour,
Sure.
you suddenly get into machine mode and everything is just like locked in. You know what you're doing. The load in, load out is all mechanized. Like you just
Oh yeah.
totally, at least the people that I've played with traditionally have also kind of been, I think it helps if everybody's on the same page that way. Hopefully they are. But yeah, as you get, Steven's had this experience. He tours a lot when we can tour.
Yeah, when it's a
he
thing. Yep.
Yeah, he has a relatively successful band called Close the Hatch, and they do a lot with that band. But it's so true, even if you're a seasoned, experienced band, there's something about the frequency of doing something, particularly in this case, it's playing shows. That you play better, you deliver better, you have more personality, you have more kind of like a laser focus of what the job is. The more you do it, and the shows that you perform at the end of a tour are almost always better than the shows that you perform at the head of a tour. And it's a great experience in terms of putting into practice and practicality this idea of, at what point is, good enough? At what point have you done enough that it is good? And when you know.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. Like, I was going to say, like, maybe that line moves a little bit, and you have to be okay with it moving.
Oh, yeah. 100%. It's organic as F.
Because, like you said, sometimes you'll walk into this, you'll walk into this reality where, like, you're just, like, coming up with a song and it's flowing. So then that bar of good enough is going to be higher, You can allow it to kind of float a little bit higher.
Yeah. Yeah.
Where you need to be attentive to the times where it's like return on investment, time-wise.
Yeah.
Like,
I've definitely found myself, I think you as well, like we've had conversations about this exact topic, personal conversations.
Yeah.
Where we're just sort of pressing through to finish a track because the track has been sitting around for a year, 2 years. And you're like, I need to finish this track and just get it out.
Yeah.
But sometimes, I don't know how it is for you, but like a lot of times for me, there's something illuminating in the pressing through. Like I discover some things and I'm like, man, why don't I just press through on everything?
Yeah. Well, music is the best example because I think this is where you and I are able to grow and kind of apply to other things. It's like that song Anxiety that I put out before, it was like 3 songs ago.
Yep.
I've had most of those riffs for literally years. Like on one of the live streams on Saturday, we went through my old archives,
I remember that.
dating back to like 2001.
That was fun.
In some case. Some of those riffs were on that song 10 years old. And I'm like, well, I like these riffs, but everything I put in between them didn't work for 10 years.
For 10 years.
And then I was just like, you know what? I just need to get this out. I'd rather have somebody hear these riffs and then a crappy riff than never hear these riffs.
Yeah.
And so I did it, and then I ended up coming up with a part that is like now my favorite part of the song, which is like the new riffs that I wrote for the 10-year-old riffs that I love so much. It's like, like you said, if you can just get yourself started, man, we've talked about this too, and it really does apply to a lot of this stuff.
Oh yeah.
Because we're getting in our way, we think things need to be perfect. Like if you can just get started,
it's huge.
It's gonna help so many things, man. So many things.
I'm gonna. Are you good to move along here?
Yeah.
We're gonna get into the last topic, and then it's just gonna be a little chat jamboree, as per usual. Before we get to this last part of the topic, I just want to remind everyone that obviously this is a new channel. It is not monetized. Nick and I are happy to kind of fund the software that we have to use to make this double screen thing work. We're not looking for a handout or anything like that, but if you like what's going on here, we've made a link available in the, I can put it in there again in the description, but I'll put it in the chat if you're interested in helping out with the show. That's cool. If not, that's cool too. We're going to pay for it no matter what.
Yep.
But
Just
if
the channel's in its infancy, and there's a little bit of overhead initially, and that's fine. But don't sweat it.
Yeah.
Appreciate anything or nothing. It's fine too.
Barry's asking about merch. I was thinking about merch today.
That's inevitable.
Yeah, there will be merch.
Today's
the first day.
Yep.
There was a bunch of things.
When we get into the chat, Bunn and I can go into maybe some of our thoughts about what this channel could be and might end up becoming. So
yeah,
we'll definitely
that's
dig
something.
Into that.
For those of you who are interested in this whole Bandless thing and the Discord and all of that, we can talk about creatively what we'd like to do as a whole group of folks with this Bandless thing. We have some ideas, but maybe you guys have some ideas of what you would like to see or what you'd like to contribute as well. Everybody's doing the same thing that we're doing. So we'll talk about that after this last topic. We'll get into the personal chat. And Nick Hill is standing by the phones.
Thank you for calling Bandless. You're on the air.
Hello. But the very last part of the topic here is the thing that we are hung up on, the reason that we are doing any of this. And what I'm talking about there is, how clear are we on the end goal? So like for me, the end goal is I am interested in making music as creatively as I can possibly make music in the styles that I enjoy, and to kind of build a business around all of that. That's what I'm doing. And so what are the things along the way that I'm caught up in, that I'm stuck on, that are distracting me from that end goal? And a question I have for myself, a question I have for all of you is, whatever your end goal might be, is that thing that you're stuck on, is it even really related to the end goal? Or is it just a story that's in your head? Like, how is your hang up related to your end goal? Often I find for myself, they're not related at all. And sometimes it requires very little change. Like, in order to fix it, the change is just like a very slight change in perspective.
Mm-hmm.
So an example of what I'm talking about is like my website, which was not pixel perfect. My initial Bunn website, now it's fine. But the initial thing, it wasn't pixel perfect. It being pixel perfect had nothing to do with my progress.
Yeah.
And for some reason, I was fixated on that. I'm like, it needs to be pixel perfect. Or having an amp that was better than the amp that I already had. Had nothing to do with my progress. Had nothing to do with my end goal. Or wanting to write and produce killer tunes. There was no comparison for wanting versus doing. Wanting had nothing to do. Like, it's the genesis of your motivation, but being consumed with want, it's like, I want to do this one day, versus it's like, okay, I'm going to start doing this. It's going to suck today, but hopefully it'll be better tomorrow, and on and on and on. So I hope I'm illustrating this idea. It's a little bit of a different perspective than the things we've already covered. This is something that I've wrestled with numerous times. Nick, do you have anything like this that comes to mind right away?
So I don't know that I have like a genuinely good example of this, but this is something that, like, I'm thinking about it as you're kind of talking. Like, like what you said about the want. Well, I want to write great music. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing to write great music?
Yeah.
Wanting doesn't do shit, you know.
My mom has a great saying for that, and it's wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which hand fills up first. It's a terrible saying, but I just love it.
But that's exactly it.
But it is practicality versus being consumed with want, you know. And I have been guilty as charged. I got to
absolutely
skip along here for one more second. I'm too much liquid death.
Oh, that's okay. I have a perfect example of this type of thing. We were talking about go pee, get out of here. So, Bunn talks about like that wanting that perfect amp to do the next thing, but it's like, I remember having, before I had the Helix, I had the POD HD 500 or POD 500, whatever it was. And at the time, I'm like, I thought I needed something better. But in that live stream where I was talking about, where we went back and listened to some archival stuff, I listened to some of those guitar tones that I got with that POD HD 500. The one at the time I thought wasn't good enough. And I'm like, these were good tones. These were good enough. Like, and when I say good enough, I don't mean like I'm settling. Like, this is good enough stuff. So, all this stuff is sort of related. It's feeling maybe a little bit redundant, but it kind of ties in to itself. Bunn's saying he wanted the perfect website. That was keeping him from having a website at all. I did that same thing. Wanting the perfect, like, witty T-shirt idea, as opposed to having any T-shirt at all. It's like when you
apologies.
No worries. I was just telling him about how, we both had POD HD 500s, and in that live stream where I went back and listened to some old stuff, I was like, wow, these are good tones.
Yeah.
And at the time I was like, I need something better.
Yeah, I know.
So it's such a silly thing. And it's not silly to think this way, because we all do. That's why we have these conversations, and we're doing this show and talking to you guys, is because if we can get one of you guys to see it a little bit sooner than we did, then that's great.
Yeah, and I think this kind of conversation, it's just, I don't have a ton of people that I can that I can dig into this sort of stuff with. A lot of people in my everyday life, a lot of people are not even trying to do anything. They usually just watch TV and that's it.
Yeah, we've talked about sort of being on an island when it comes to doing this creative thing.
So,
and that's a whole topic in itself. So
so
to be able to bounce this off of each other, and then the chat and the Discord guys, like, it's only going to benefit all of us in the long run. I mean, we're going to get just as much out of it as you guys do. You'll realize this sooner than later. We're not anything particularly special, either of us. We just kind of like have this just drive.
Keep showing up.
Yep. Yeah. I love this saying. It sounds so.
Yeah, Dylan always comes with the dope.
If wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Well, that was really good, Nikhil.
If wishes were horses, beggars would ride.
Oh man, you're going straight to Hollywood, or you came straight from Hollywood, I guess.
I'm going the wrong way.
But in this whole thing of the hang up, where your kind of hang up, or where your attention is, that may have nothing to do with like where your goal is. I had this one scenario. It's a friend of mine who is a pretty decent illustrator, like has always been able to draw. Some people are more naturally capable
Yep.
of drawing than others. And this person always had this skill, and they had this fascination, dream of being a comic book artist.
Yeah.
And one day they got to meet their hero. It was probably at a Comic-Con or something like that. And they got to meet their hero and actually talk to them about like doing the craft. I think they actually got to sit down, grab a coffee, and like really talk about things. And it was a mind-altering experience for the guy. And the big question that he posed to his hero was, you know, what do I have to do to become a amazing comic book artist like you? And the response was a question.
I love this, man.
And the guy was like, how many panels do you draw every day? And how often do you get your work out there? How often do you kind of share it in some way? And my friend's response was, I barely ever draw, and I never published anything. I have never published anything ever. And it was perfectly
Kind of can't
illustrated.
be taken too seriously at that point, right?
Can't be taken too seriously. And also it kind of illustrates, it's like you're stuck in your head. You're stuck on the want of the thing. You're stuck on this sort of, you're hung up on something that actually has nothing to do. It feels like it has everything to do with the end goal. But the end goal is actually pretty simple. You know, the easiest pivot is make something, make something small. Number one thing is, so the easiest pivot is make something, do the smallest thing in the direction of what you're doing and share it, like make it public somehow. And then you just repeat it as many times as possible. Every time you refine it or change something about it, and keep going. But
this is huge. Like, in the interest of being transparent and candid, Dylan and I are pretty good friends. We're becoming good friends. We know each other through mutual friends, and over the last couple of years, we've become better and better friends. We had a pretty candid conversation last night about me, having gained some weight over the last few months, and just feeling real un-Nick about it, as far as like feeling down and sorry for myself, knowing full well only myself to blame. A little backstory: a few years ago, I lost a bunch of weight by changing my diet, eating clean, and just walking and moving around. And I've gained a portion of that weight back. And, we kind of were talking, and he was, helping me kind of like see. It's like the answer, but sometimes you need somebody to say it.
Yeah, you need to have the conversation.
And like, he's like, well, I've been doing this, keto thing and low carb thing, all stuff. We almost did the exact same thing for him having lost weight. And when I lost my chunk of weight, like, I knew all the answers. I know what to do. And it boiled down to him kind of saying, and then me, like, both kind of coming to like, just a step in the right direction is better than nothing, an incremental step in the right direction.
Yeah.
At every given opportunity is going to yield something, because before you know it, you've put some distance between nothing and where you are. So, and today I took steps in the right direction. I all I could do is start today with, like, if I'm gonna get back on track and feel the way I want to feel, like, I need to take the first step.
And would you say, I think for myself in these sorts of things, it's way easier to think about it. It's like, okay, I just need to do this one thing today. And then once I get through today, I can think about if I want to repeat it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And I think what ends up happening a lot of times, like, let's say, losing weight or wanting to be a comic book artist or whatever, a lot of people get too fixated on the pressures of further down the line, or it's like, oh, I need to lose all of this weight. It's like, well, how about lose try and lose 1
Yeah,
pound.
you need to lose 1 pound first.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How about try and get on track for 1 day?
Yeah. Yep.
And if that works, it's like, oh, okay, well, like maybe we can do 2 days. If we can draw panels for a comic book today, at least one, maybe we can do it again tomorrow, and maybe it will be better. Or maybe it will be the same, but I'll be twice as far along.
Yeah, I
You
mean,
know?
there's some good stuff relating to this in the chat right now.
Yeah,
That's,
we're actually, I think we're gonna hang up the hat on the topics because we kind of
yeah.
beat it to death and get into the chat. You wanna lead the chat off here?
There's a couple things. So there's a couple things I want to point out here. Development of a Void says this, and this is again, you know, in our conversation, it's like, and in my thought process, knowing how to do this, having done it before, this is 100% right. A diet's a diet. It's a temporary thing. You need to consider lifestyle changes, and that's what I did, changing my diet, what I ate, and I stuck to it for a couple years, you know, and it's just been in like in recent years that I've fallen off. So I agree with this, and you're right. You have to look at things like this as like if you really want to make significant change in your life, like it needs to be a lifestyle change when it comes to like at least dieting.
Yeah.
So that's a good point. Apoplexia brings up, Dylan has another couple great points, but apoplexia brings up, and we'll get to that. There's something important here, I think, to touch upon. Is he says, I totally get that. For years, I wanted to work towards getting signed to a label, start playing gigs, and eventually get to play DJ sets in other countries where my genre really mattered. And then he goes on to say, then I realized it's not at all what I wanted, and I actually just want to have fun. You know,
Yeah.
there's some,
That's a good one.
music for me too. It was like, if I can get signed, if I can get in a band, I need to be in a band. I need to be in a band to get anywhere with music. I need to get signed. I remember thinking these things, you know, before I, you know, really put my effort into YouTube. And it's like, well, when I started doing what Apoplexy has done and just focus on like, I'm just going to make music that I like and put it out, because something will happen, you know?
Yeah. Like, yeah, we've talked about this fact a million times. Like, there's only pluses if you connect with other people.
Mm-hmm.
Look at all the people that we've connected. Like you and I have connected. We've brought this up a bunch of times, but you and I have connected as a result of you putting your music out, me putting my music out.
Yeah.
And a variety of other things that come with that.
Yep.
You know, a lot of folks who are in the chat, if not all of them, are folks that we are, you know, that we converse with frequently, either through forums or direct messaging or otherwise. But all amazing relationships built out of getting your music out. And I've listened to a lot of these people's music who are in the chat, and some of them have a significant amount of material out, and I've purchased some of it or sometimes all of it.
Yeah.
Because I just dig it. I just, so it's not about me doing anything good or better or whatever, or the right thing. It's just an example of this whole thing. It works. Like if you just get the music out there, it is this amazing conduit to connect with other people, whether it be for the success of like income or just to
Community.
To have people that you can talk to and speak the same language.
You know, even just 6 months ago, you know, before you were even live streaming, you know, when I was like occasionally doing it, I don't think would have thought that we'd be able to bring both of our communities together. And
I love it.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, you weren't giving any thought to live streaming at all, you know?
Because I thought my technology sucked so bad. And then
exactly.
You and I figured it out by accident.
Yeah.
Having a Google chat.
It's funny. Like I said, you know, and I hope this comes across, like we're not We're not on some sort of soapbox. We are right in the trenches with you guys, you know, going through this stuff.
Yeah,
You
you
know,
just try things, see what happens, be creative. However you want to be creative. It's a beautiful thing. Like you can do it with any criteria you want. I think in the past, people would get caught up in this thing. It's like, oh, well, I have to, like Apoplexy is talking about, I have to do it this way. I have to get the label. I have to do it this way, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. There's all these steps and it happens a specific way. Well, these days, you can do any of it any way you want for any reason.
yeah.
And I think that is much more widely accepted and understood. Although there is, like, if you're a little bit older, I'm quite a bit older than a lot of folks. But Nick, you know, you're 10 years behind me.
9.
But 9. There you go. But yeah, like I remember a world where it had a criteria of like how you did it. And if you were not doing it that way, it's like, why on
Then you
earth
weren't
would you,
relevant or something. Yeah.
or why on earth would you even bother?
yeah.
Because it's
That's
so
gone.
costly or whatever. It's all gone. You can
And
just do it.
it might not even have been the case to begin with, you know? Like,
Yeah.
it's funny. It's funny.
Yeah. Back to the comments.
Yeah.
I'm
Dylan says, it's also that we get lost in our own heads and convolute/overcomplicate everything, get lost in thought. What helps me sometimes is someone being like, slow down, you're making this harder on yourself. And I think that's what Dylan did for me last night is like, hey, bro, like, you know what you got to do? Just start doing it. Like, just start doing it. And it's fun. Like, you know, me and my wife have this thing where it's like, and I know how this is going to come off, and I'm not, this isn't, I don't need to be right, but I have, over the years, having experienced a lot of different people, been in a lot of different situations with a lot of different kinds of people, can read people in situations very well. So when things like when things my wife is involved in, I can read them a little bit better and quicker than she can, and I'll interject what my thought is. It takes someone else telling her that too a lot of the times for her to be like, you know what, you were right. And at the beginning of the first half of our relationship, I was like a little annoyed by that. But now it's like, no, that's just the dynamic. Sometimes people need to hear it from someone else, you know? And because we've been together so long, 10 years, it's almost kind of like we're kind of like a thing. So like, it's like we need to hear it from someone else, even though like I'm telling her, hey, this is how this might happen.
Yeah.
You know, it just takes someone else saying like,
To shine some light.
yeah, hold up. And it's not exactly in line with what Dylan's saying, but it's like sometimes we just need, even if we know the answer, most of the time we do, if you think about it. If you're going through a rough time in your life, like, who knows what it might be, like, for most of us, like, you have an idea of what the right thing is or what steps you might need to take to get out of it. But it often takes somebody saying, like, hey, why aren't you doing this? And you're like, yeah, I know, I've thought about it. Like, stop thinking about it and do it, you know? So that's another thing about community that is hopefully going to be great is like, there's, you know, 50 people that you can bounce these ideas off of now, you know?
Yep. You see that one, Nick?
Yeah.
This is
Development
from
of a void. Yeah. I haven't done anything in years and trying to get back into it. Having a little group project where we all have the same conditions, limitations, like picking one amp or cab and writing a 1 minute. There must be more. Yeah, I saw part of this. Yeah, the group idea thing.
Yeah.
A 1 minute song can help me and others maybe get the ball rolling. Yeah.
I'm really interested in this, actually.
Yeah.
Is development of void? Are you in the Discord? I'm not too sure.
So
where is our Discord link? Is it in our private chat?
I thought I pinned it to the top, but I don't recall.
I can't see the top. Or yes, I can.
He says, yep. So I think he is in there.
Okay, good.
So Ola, this is one thing that I know that people love him or hate him. I don't care. I love Ola. He's a hero of mine. You know, he's fucking Ola. He does this thing on his Sundays where he'll do like, a weekly riff type of thing. And it's turned into two things for him where it's like, it forced him to write. He'll like come up with a drum part and then write to it. But he'll give the drum parts to everybody for them to try and write something.
Right.
So it's this like, it's a sort of a challenge, and what you write with it might not be the greatest thing, but it goes back to what we were saying earlier, where if you write this one thing that might not be great, it could lead to the next thing that you write that couldn't be good, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you got to chip away at it. So maybe some sort of something like this. I'm all about motivating people.
Yeah.
Or like helping people get through these moments, because I know for the most part, they're temporary.
Yeah.
So this is definitely something.
Yeah. Apoplexia kind of expands on that idea with like a riff challenge. I personally wouldn't want it to be a challenge, but I would like to maybe, if we did something like this, where everything was sort of publicly available, and maybe there could be sort of like a highlight reel of it or a compilation of it or something like that. But the only part about challenge that I'm not crazy about, I shouldn't say not crazy about, but like I don't want it to be a competition.
It's that winner type of
yeah.
That doesn't
but
need to be
still wrap it up
this.
in something like that where there is enthusiasm to do it.
Yeah.
So maybe we could, I don't know, Apoplexy, if you have any ideas there, you're usually pretty sharp with that stuff.
The BO riffs kind of really inspired me.
Right.
Twofold. Coming up with a tone that wasn't Nick Hill typical,
Yeah.
And then playing to that tone not forced me, but it really kind of guided me to write different types of stuff. You guys have heard a lot of these BO riffs turned into songs in my live stream, because they're turning into songs that are going to be a real project. So that the BO riff did it for me,
Yeah. I think the only sort of, there is no downside, but maybe the downside, so to speak, of the BO riffs is it doesn't have like a time limit or like a tighter criteria. I think what is it, Weathered and Wise, or is it Development of Void? It is having like a much tighter criteria, and also I think a time limit is important.
Yeah.
Development of a Void, BO means, he's asking what BO means.
I'm typing
baritone obsessed.
Yeah.
But putting a really tight criteria to it and a timeline. So it's like, at this time, this thing is done, and then we're kind of gonna make it all available in the same place. Maybe we do a Bandcamp and it's a compilation of all these 1 minute tunes that everybody has done.
Yeah.
I love the idea of a 1 minute tune, because that's what I already make. Even my doom sludge tunes are like
It would be really cool to come up with some sort of mechanism where we can do this. It doesn't even need to be a 1 full minute. Like if we can come up with this mechanism where we have a chunk, like 8 bars at whatever BPM. I know I'm getting real technical already.
Maybe we do it as a workshop series.
And like something that we can all end up cramming together into one thing. Like one progressive track of like
one tempo.
Yeah, that just goes.
The only difficulty with that is everybody's got to be on the same DAW.
Nah.
Because you want to put like, or ask people for stems and stuff like that. I don't want to deal with that. It's like when I had a studio, just trying to get stems from people and put albums together, I'm like, not something I never wanted to deal with.
You know, it can be as simple as like, if we have 8 bars at this BPM, you know, and we give them a drum track that gives them the feel, all they got to do is send their guitar track. You
Yeah.
know?
Me personally, I would never participate in something where someone else came up with the drums.
Yeah, well, that's something too.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know what it
You know
would
what
be
we
either.
do? We start a thread in the Discord that is like, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to navigate it? And so clearly I will have to give up on certain things, and other people will too. But maybe we discuss it all together and also nail down a time. It's like, okay, this is when we need to sort it out by, so we can
Yeah.
get it into motion, and this is how long it's going to last for, and this is what it is.
I mean, you're right. I don't know that writing the drums for everybody is. I'm kind of with you there.
Yeah, if people need drums, maybe we can offer like a library or whatever. Honestly, like if you have a drum software, it comes with tons of drums.
Yeah.
Um, so
Like maybe you should come up with because you're a drummer. You have an interesting, and I mean this in a great way because I tell you all the time, I wish I could write stuff like you. You have an interesting, like, like feel for your drum parts. It would be cool if you started it, and then
Right.
everybody had to write something to your drum beat.
right. Yeah, maybe what we'll do. So how about we kind of split the difference where we pick the time signature and the tempo, and then maybe I'll make a few beats in that time signature and tempo that for people who can't make beats, they are welcome to use them. They're just some free beats. Um, and then people who can make up their own beats, then they're welcome
Yeah.
to do that.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's good. You know,
Uh,
like
but definitely nail down like this is the tempo,
tempo.
this is the time signature. If you personally want to polyrhythm that signature, have at it. If you want to play ostinato or poly or syncopated, whatever, you can fool
Yeah,
with the time all
okay.
you want.
Yeah, this leaves it open to people coming up with like interesting drum parts on their own too. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
so if you pick a tempo, I don't know, however many measures depending on that tempo.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm into it.
Yeah.
We will put it in we'll make like a thread. Actually, David, you are a moderator. You might, if you feel so inclined, you might be able to make the thread. And
Yeah,
I
maybe
think it would be
under
a
music.
general. But if for some reason you can't, we'll make it right after the show. And what are we going to call it? We're going to call it the just Bandless Riff Challenge.
Bandless, the Bandless composition workshop.
I like it.
It's not a challenge.
Sounds really official, actually.
Yeah.
The
Like it's something to
Bandless-
just get us inspired. The Bandless composition workshop.
Welcome to the Bandless
Welcome to the
Composition
Bandless
Workshop.
Composition Workshop. Today, for your submission. Yeah.
Workshop. I like it. Bam.
I'll do it.
Yeah. Jeremy, have a good night. I'm glad you could make it out. Hope you are well,
So we'll call this the Bandless
Jeremy. So,
position.
What about
There we go.
so Weathered and Wise actually brings up a pretty interesting point. Writing to a drum track, to someone else's drum track, makes you work a little bit different, and it can be pretty fun. It can be pretty illuminating. And then Apoplexia,
Whoa.
shares
Read that.
that maybe both of us come up with a few drum lines each, and like a 8 or a 16 bar part, and then people can edit them to their own heart's content. Like if you came up with 2 or 3 and I came up with 2 or 3, then I think there would be enough variety there maybe for people to do whatever they want with them.
Yeah, potentially, yeah.
So the Derek Zoolander.
The Derek Zoolander composition challenge for kids who can't write good and want to learn how to write other stuff good too.
Amazing. But it's 9:50 right now. We're gonna shut her down at 9:50 here, so 8:50 there.
Yeah. Still, time flies.
We'll shut her down at 9 CT, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. I'm trying to go through, see if I missed any standout
Development,
comments.
What about the tone? So development of a void. I think that's something that we're going to hammer out in the Discord group, because there's a lot of details. Maybe what we'll do is we'll pose the question. The primary question will be like, what does the criteria need to be? And then everybody sort of have a conversation about what they like and dislike about, what their ideas of the criteria should be, and also comment on, I like this idea, I don't really like this idea, and whatever the sort of popular vote is what the criteria will be. In the end, like I say, I'm going to have to give up on stuff. Everyone's going to have to give up on something.
Yeah. I mean, if we're going to do this as a group thing, it's definitely going to have to be like a democratic thing. And I think that'll actually force us to figure out a way if we can do like polls or votes,
Yeah. Yeah, we'll figure something out. I'm so new to Discord, as are you, Nick. So
I've been banging my head at least for an hour or so a night trying to like wrap my head around.
When you told me about how to make a mod, I was like, you can't make moderators here.
I know, that's funny, man. It's like, you're like, there's no mods. I'm like, and then it was me like not understanding it. So there was a little bit of like, hold on, what are you talking about? Of course there's not. He's like, yeah, there's no mods. I'm like, Bunn,
just make one.
We gotta make it. We gotta make it. But we're so clueless when it comes to this.
I had no idea.
So funny. It's so funny how technical we can be with some of this stuff, and then
the
we dive into something unknown. We're just like, how have we got here? How have we got here? What are we doing? How is this a thing?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah. It's funny, man. It's funny. How
and the amount of time that
I
I've spent like looking for mods and not realizing that you just make it. Like literally like probably 4 hours.
Yeah. So yeah, I know like the rules thing is a perfect example. Like I created a rules channel, like, and I spent so much time thinking I needed to do it some fancy way. And I'm like, just put them up there.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And,
it's funny, man.
Apoplexia really kind of sums it up. Internets can be complicated. Yeah. Complex.
It can be complex.
That's a good shirt right there.
Internets be complexicated. It really is, man. If you don't have a merch store yet, Apoplexia, that should be your first entry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing. But, I'm excited about this. This could be fun.
Do you want to dive in real quick, the last few minutes, about some of the tentative plans we might have for this channel? You know, we kind of
Yeah, so Bandless, as those of you who are left, as you know, this is a new channel because you're here. uh, it gives us the ability to do a lot more things that we wouldn't typically want to do on our personal channels.
yeah.
That is more specific to, you know, the solo music creator. Even if you're in a band, a lot of this stuff applies.
Absolutely.
And some of the things that we're musing on is like bringing in industry people who, like, one of the things Nick and I have been talking about is, you know, we know a few people who are on industry side that could talk about like, oh, you know, you're an artist and you're sort of up and coming. What to consider in terms of reaching out to manufacturers for endorsements or deals on gear, or like in exchange for visibility and all that sort of stuff. And there's a million other people, or that's just the, you know, a common topic that we've been having lately, but
Yeah.
there's a million other things that we could do, or we could bring people on the channel and do it in a live stream fashion. We can also do pre-recorded content, and we can have guest content. I personally intend to make content for this channel that is, you know, a weird example would be like how to style a Bandcamp page and make it look like your own web page because you can't afford a web page right now, or
Huge. Yeah.
stuff like that.
Yeah.
I want to make content like that. I feel like I've always wanted to make content like that, but it just, my channel
Agreed.
became something else.
Agreed. Like, on that topic, since you opened up my eyes to Bandzoogle, again, we're not sponsored. This is not a commercial for Bandzoogle, but Bandzoogle, for you guys that are musicians, you know, even at the smallest level,
Yeah. How to
it's
put a page
such
together.
a simple, great way to get a central landing location for yourself that, you know, I think it's one of the things that Bunn and I both overthought the website idea.
Yeah.
That it kind of takes that out. It's like, it's simple, it's clean, and you can do it. And a video on that, a video on Bandcamp especially,
Yeah.
you know, video stuff, you know, I know there's guys, some of you guys who have asked about live streaming setups and even just simple camera gear questions. This might be the place for that kind of thing, since our individual channels kind of, it doesn't work, you know.
Yeah. This is going to be a place for all those kinds of resources in terms of like just getting it going as like a solo person or even as a band. Like I say, you don't have to be solo.
All of this stuff can apply to a band easily, you know, if you kind of look at it that way. Like,
but there's definitely a slant to kind of like having to wear every hat in terms of the stuff, what we're covering and how we're going to cover it. But it doesn't you don't have to be a solo person.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's cool. It's exciting.
And if there's anything that you're particularly interested in or want to know about or anything like that, just let us know.
Drop
and
your Bandless ideas in the Bandless channel on the Discord.
Yeah, we have plenty of ideas. It just like we're trying to go back in time in terms of go back through our journey to here. But our journey from here to the future is also, there's always new things. So, you know, maybe we'll talk about, you know, what it is to start up a Discord. I don't know.
I mean, yeah, at some point, I bet we could. We're definitely not there yet. But
I think we're going to wind
let's
her down.
wrap
What
it.
do we got here? 9:59. That's
Yeah.
good enough. 8:59. Thank you very much to everyone who participated in this first stream on this brand new channel. I'm stoked you found it. I'm stoked that you're here.
Thank you guys.
Once again, the level of the topics in the comments is just like amazing.
That's something to be to focus in on for a second. Like Bunn and I do always after the show kind of do a quick little like recap, and you know, you guys, thoughtful comments, engaging comments, you know, conversations amongst one another, encouraging, candid, like being open about things that like real world shit. Like, oh, thanks, buddy. Appreciate you. See you next week. Um, it's just it's inspiring to Bunn and I. It gets us excited to help even more. It pushes us. You know, we're pretty driven dudes,
Yeah.
but this does help even more. It's like
Yeah.
the building this community is like that's
I'm-
exactly it. Like Epiplexia says, Bandless, the most non-toxic community on YouTube, and
That's what we seek to be.
yeah, and that's something that we've noticed and loved about the Discord so far. There's plenty of opportunity for that to change, but I don't know that that's going to happen.
I think that
because
the people that are involved
yeah,
won't let that happen.
it's so low when you go on the internet. It's almost like you go in like you have to go in with the shield. You're ready to just get into some shit sometimes.
Right.
We don't want that.
Yeah.
Like we want you to come here, let your guard down, talk about real world stuff. You know, I was joking with Bunn about like we're big metal dudes and we gotta like keep our walls up and we can't talk about this can't talk about this feelings. It's like, no, man. Like you can still be a dude, a manly dude, and talk about the stuff that's bugging you.
Yeah.
You know, that doesn't make you
It's
weak.
really important, actually.
Yeah, and it kind of makes you a better person and a better dude.
I would
So,
say, yeah, 100%.
Like that's what we want. We want you guys to be able to come on these streams, to join these streams, to join us in the Discord, share your ideas, your music, and not feel like you got to deal with a bunch of crap. So
Yeah, 100%.
yeah.
And to kind of like cap it all off, I'm really curious to see what kinds of creative endeavors come out of all of it.
Mhm.
You know, who I maybe connect with in creative ways, who Nick connects with in creative ways, who connects within the group and does in, you know, collaborations and all that kind of stuff. For me, that's like where my highest level of curiosity is, to see how all that works out and what people make and how we all kind of get involved in each other's things as well as we can.
Yeah, because I mean, something you guys are gonna notice, and I know we're trying to wrap this, but this is the Midwestern thing. It's like you
Yeah.
say
Long
goodbye
goodbyes.
yeah, you say goodbye for 2 hours. It's like Bunn and I, you know, if you have a creative endeavor, or you know, like we'll use Cosman as a good example. You know, he is an electrical engineer, and he is a geek when it comes to this stuff. He's ended up making us both cables, you know, and we've, you know, shared his. He made you those special coily. Oh, they're so sick. What ends did
Yeah.
he use?
They're
Those are
new tricks.
nice.
Yeah, but they're like super short just for
Are
the
they
decks.
the silent ones, or no?
No, I
Okay.
didn't want that.
Oh, you don't need them.
I didn't want anything that would maybe fail.
Yep.
I'm like, I want it to last forever.
Right. So Cosman, he made those cables. He has a reverb shop. We support that. You know, he doesn't have a ton of customers. He's not
Yeah.
well known.
I bought those cables.
But the point is, like, we want to. If you guys have these kind of things, we'll
Yeah,
support
we want to
that.
know about it.
Yeah, we want
there's
to know about it.
There's no spamming in this group if it's relevant to kind of like your band thing. It's like, hey, I got my record together or whatever, or I started a reverb shop. I'd love it if people could check it out and let me know what they think. You know,
Yeah.
if it's formatted well, or if it's missing information. I don't know. There's all these like benefits that can come out of sharing your stuff that way. So there is no spamming that way, unless
Right.
it's like just flat out spamming. And I think we all know the difference.
Yeah, I mean, just be cool about it, and
Yeah.
and if it's like, yeah, if it fits in line with everything,
share
you're
what
gonna get our
doing.
support. Yeah.
we're musicians and we're doing stuff, and we're creative people and we're doing stuff. So share what you're doing.
Yeah.
There's channels for that.
Bunn and I are both the people in our circles that push people to be creative.
Yeah, totally.
And, like, so, you know, we'll always be willing to.
You can do it.
Yeah. You're always gonna get
Get
that
into
from
it.
us. Yeah, probably to an annoying extent at some point. But by next week, I'm gonna get some liquid death in my hands,
Oh,
We're
yeah.
gonna get this. It's a Bandless sponsorship.
Here in Canada, I can get a subscription to it, and I think I'm going to do it. Well, or maybe I should hold out for the sponsorship.
I mean, if we show our intent and our intention, like, hey, we're willing to buy this on our own,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
Bandless exclusively drinks liquid death.
No, Bandless exclusively murders their thirst with liquid death.
This is real over-the-top commercial.
Fire and
yeah.
skulls and
Skulls and yeah. Just the cheesiest, cringiest stuff ever.
Super
All right.
fun though. All right.
Awesome
Good night,
show,
everybody. Amazing show.
Thanks again for finding us. We'll see you here on the Bandless channel. The previous episodes, at some point, I'm hoping this week we'll get up there. I'll put them up there. It's just another thing.
I might be able to do it. Like we're just going to download them from here and then get them up that way. Is that how it works?
I think I'm going to download them from my channel because I think
right. Since
they
Chris.
fall off after.
Good night.
Brother. All right, guys. We'll see you soon.